yesterday we did go through some of what Ed Orgeron said on Off the Bench about the defensive line. There was something else that Coach O mentioned in that interview, Jordy and T-Bob, that I thought was sort of understood, but in the day since, it's gotten a lot of reaction because apparently it wasn't as understood by many. They asked they asked Ed Orgeron, the guys did, about Derek Stingley possibly playing some offense this year in his sophomore season. Here's what Coach O said on Wednesday on Off the Bench.
During the recruiting process, his father and I became very close, and he says, Coach, look, I want you to promise me that he gets to learn the position of cornerback, master it. It'll take 2 years, in his opinion. And I said, okay. And the third year, he said, Coach, if you want to use him on offense, we'll talk about it. I think in the third year, you may see Derek on offense. I haven't visited with him, his father, since the season. But if he wants to play, we're going to use him both ways.
So here's the really interesting thing about that. Back in December, Derek Stingley Sr. essentially told the same exact story. Give a listen.
During his recruitment, Coach O talked about it on our home visit that, hey, if there's a chance that we can put him on offense, would you guys be willing to do that? And what I told O then, I said, listen, I'm okay with that being the case, but I want him to understand and be comfortable playing defensive back first. I say because it's going to be too much on his plate because you guys still want him to return punts and play defense, and he's still just 17, 18 years old. That's going to be a lot for a kid of that age to do that. And Coach O was like, well, maybe we can do it later in his career. I said, I would prefer, if that be the case, that maybe he do that his junior year when he's comfortable being a defensive back in the SEC playing big-time ball. To put all that on his plate right now, I just didn't think that was something he should have been doing. So Coach O said, you know what? That's what we'll do. If that's what we choose to do, I'll give you my word that we'll wait until his junior year.
So the really cool thing about that is both guys, independent of each other, 6 months apart, told the same exact story. So that's very validating. That's the plan. That's what O said. That's what Derek Stingley Sr. said. That's the plan. They talked about it in recruiting, that they want Derek to master cornerback, and when he's comfortable there, which, by the way, I think he's mastered cornerback. I mean, is there any lingering doubt if Derek Stingley's mastered corner? I mean, Derek Stingley would have been a top 5 pick in the draft. Like, we talked about this with Mike Detillier around draft time, that if Derek Stingley were coming out in this year's draft, he would have been a higher graded cornerback than Jeff Okudah from Ohio State, who was the first cornerback taken in the draft. So I think Derek Stingley is probably already there, but needless to say, you can always be better. And a year ago, it was a different scenario because you had a guy like Christian Fulton on the other side. Now Stingley's the guy. How does it go if he's maybe not being targeted every game? Well, yeah, that remains to be seen. But if you're going to have this conversation eventually, because some people are still, like, I got a bunch of questions about this yesterday on social media, and I was surprised by it a little bit. If you're going to have the conversation about Derek Stingley potentially playing on the offensive side of the ball, I would say weigh your pros and cons, right? Like, do like we normally do. You get a list, pros, cons, draw a line down the middle, and list them. If I were thinking about the pros of Derek Stingley playing on the offensive side of the ball, the number one would be notoriety, right? Number one would be if you have a player that is so prominent like Derek Stingley, defensively, arguably the best defensive player in the country, certainly the best cornerback in the country, and you moved him to offense, that's going to get a lot of attention. It would draw comparisons to Charles Woodson, and then when you start talking about national awards, etc., all of that sort of would make sense, right? And the other is he's obviously a playmaker. I mean, Derek Stingley did play both ways in high school. He knows how to play the offensive side of the ball, and you get a super athlete on both sides of the football. So you'd get a great athlete at offense. But the cons, the list is so much longer on the reasons not to play Derek Stingley on offense. First of all, you're taking reps away from other wide receivers. Every rep that Derek Stingley is on the field at receiver, you are taking that rep away from a guy you recruited to be a wide receiver. And you got plenty of them that are aching for playing time right now. Also, for every rep Derek Stingley takes on offense, he'd be missing a rep on defense. If he did get in the game, could you imagine if there was a team targeting Derek Stingley? What if he went to go catch a ball and took a helmet-to-helmet hit and was knocked out? Yeah, I mean, it's a worst-case scenario, but you got to consider it. You got to weigh all the factors. And then what about, what if you got him out there running plays on offense? Is he getting enough rest when the offense should be on the field, the defense should be on the sideline, looking at film throughout the game, whatever needed to happen for the next series or whatever the case may be, catch your breath, get rested so you can be at max efficiency when you get back on the field on defense. See, I get the list is just so much longer for reasons not to. And here's the other thing. When I look at LSU's wide receivers, you got Jamar Chase, who's the best receiver in the country. That's not. He won the Biletnikoff as the best receiver in the country, and he's back. He had 1,800 yards and 20 touchdowns a year ago. After that, you got Terrace Marshall, who, as LSU's number 3 a year ago, had 46 catches for 671 yards and 13 touchdowns. By the way, that 13 touchdowns was 4th in the country. Chase, Jefferson were 1, 2, and then Terrace Marshall was 4th in the country in receiving touchdowns a year ago. That was your number 3 receiver. And now everyone's hyping Racey McMath as the next guy. 17 catches, 285, 3 touchdowns. By the way, Racey McMath is 6'3", 221. I want to see what that guy can do running out there. And oh, by the way, there's Trey Palmer, and there's John Trey Kirkland, and there's Jeray Jenkins. And then you got 3 freshmen you signed with Coy Moore and Kayshon Boutte and Alex Adams, and you want to get these guys reps. Why would you take reps away from guys who are here to play that position and give them to a guy that you don't need? And that's probably the biggest thing. See, you're going to struggle to get all of those guys involved this year. So why? Why would you want to add Derek Stingley to that mix? I don't see the merit. And people will draw out the comparison to Charles Woodson in 1997. Here's the point about that 1997 Michigan team when Charles Woodson played some receiver. Woodson won the Heisman, of course. He played defensive back. He returned punts and then also played some wide receiver. That 1997 Michigan team, their leading pass catcher on that team was their running back, Chris Howard, with 35 catches and 263 yards. 35 catches. That was their leading pass catcher, was their running back, Chris Howard. Jeremy Tooman was the leading wide receiver at 27 catches. Ty Streets had 24 catches, and then Anthony Thomas, another running back, had 21 receptions. Of your top 4 pass catchers, two of them were running backs for Michigan in 1997. The top pass catcher was a running back, Chris Howard. Charles Woodson had 11 catches for 231 and 3 scores. That Michigan team needed a dynamic playmaker on the outside because they lacked that. Their best receiver, their best pass catcher was a running back with 35 catches. Their best receiver had 27 catches for 404. By comparison, Terrace Marshall last year doubled those numbers. I mean, it's great. He was your number 3. That's crazy. So, if you're drawing that comparison, Michigan needed Charles Woodson on offense. LSU doesn't need Derek Stingley on offense. So it doesn't sound like it's going to happen this year at all, and I applaud that decision. I'm not sure I'd even want to see it happen in 2021 when Derek is a junior. Now, if he wants to do it and pushes for it, maybe you allow a veteran player that opportunity, but I don't see the merit in it right now. I think his dad has a great idea about it. Ed Ogeron agreed. I think that's the way they roll because you are loaded at receiver, and you're not really showing any signs of lacking or slacking at that position in recruiting either.